Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, a question that has captivated thinkers, theologians, and explorers for centuries. What happened to the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve were cast out? The story is familiar to many. In the book of Genesis, God creates a paradise for the first humans, a place of perfect harmony and abundance. But after they eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they are exiled. Genesis chapter 3 verse 24 tells us that God drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So, right from the start, the Bible tells us Eden wasn't destroyed. It was sealed off, guarded by powerful angelic beings and a fiery, perpetually moving sword. This implies the garden continued to exist on Earth, at least for a time, just inaccessible to humanity. But where was it? And is it still there? Let's start with the where. Genesis provides some geographical clues. It mentions a river flowing out of Eden that splits into four headwaters: the Piscean, the Gahan, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. The Tigris and Euphrates are real rivers, of course, forming the heart of ancient Mesopotamia in modern-day Iraq. This has led many to believe Eden was located somewhere in that region, often called the cradle of civilization. However, the other two rivers, the Piscean and the Gihan, are a mystery. The text says the Piscean flows around the entire land of Havilah, a place rich in gold, and the Gahan winds through the land of Cush. While Cush is often associated with ancient Ethiopia or Sudan, the exact locations are debated. This has opened the door to countless theories. Some scholars suggest Havilah was in Arabia, while others have proposed locations as far-flung as India or parts of Africa. The biggest challenge to pinpointing a location is the Great Flood. The Genesis account of Noah's flood describes a cataclysmic event that reshaped the entire surface of the planet. Mountains rose, valleys sank, and the world's geography was fundamentally altered. If the Garden of Eden was a physical place on Earth before the flood, it is highly probable that the floodwaters would have either completely destroyed it or buried it under miles of sediment, wiping it from the map forever. The rivers mentioned in Genesis might not even correspond to the rivers we know by the same names today. They could simply be post-flood rivers, named in memory of the pre-flood originals. This idea that the garden was destroyed by the flood is a common and logical conclusion for many. It suggests that Eden's purpose was fulfilled, and with humanity's exile and the subsequent corruption of the world, this earthly paradise was reclaimed by the forces of nature, its remnants lost to time. But what if it wasn't destroyed? What if it was protected? This is where the theories get even more fascinating. One idea is that God didn't just guard the garden. He physically removed it from the earthly realm. Think of it as being uplifted into a spiritual dimension, or even taken to heaven itself. In this view, Eden is no longer a place you can find on a map. It has become a spiritual reality, a symbol of the paradise that awaits the faithful. The book of Revelation speaks of a paradise of God where the tree of life is found once again, suggesting a restoration of what was lost, but on a heavenly, not an earthly, plane. This concept resonates with many religious traditions. The idea of a lost paradise is a powerful archetype. The search for Eden becomes a metaphor for humanity's spiritual journey, our longing to return to a state of innocence and communion with the divine. It's not about finding a physical garden, but about rediscovering that connection within ourselves and our faith. However, that hasn't stopped people from looking. Throughout history, the quest for a literal, physical Garden of Eden has been very real. During the Age of Discovery, explorers, fueled by a mix of faith, ambition, and a desire for riches, set out in search of it. They followed ancient maps and interpreted scriptural clues, convinced they could find this lost paradise. Some searched in the Middle East, others in Africa, and some even believed it was in the Americas, a new world that seemed like a pristine, untouched Eden. Christopher Columbus himself speculated that the mouth of the Orinoco River in South America might be the gateway to the earthly paradise. Of course, no one has ever found it. No explorer returned with a branch from the Tree of Life or a map marked, "You are here." Each expedition ended in failure, reinforcing the idea that Eden, if it still exists, is not meant to be found by conventional means. So, where does that leave us? Let's recap the main theories. First, the garden was a physical place in ancient Mesopotamia, which was then destroyed and erased from the map by the Great Flood. Second, the garden was supernaturally protected and removed from the earth, taken up into a heavenly or spiritual realm, becoming the paradise of God mentioned in the New Testament. And third, the garden, though hidden and supernaturally guarded, still exists in some remote, undiscovered corner of the earth. This last theory is the most tantalizing for adventurers, but the least supported by theological or geological evidence. If a place with cherubim and a flaming sword existed on Earth, it seems likely that in our age of satellite imagery and global surveillance, we would have detected some asterisk kind of anomaly. Perhaps the most profound answer is that the story of Eden's fate is about geography at all. It's about a state of being. Eden represents our lost connection to God and to nature. When Adam and Eve were exiled, humanity lost that perfect relationship. The flaming sword isn't just a physical barrier, it's a spiritual one. It symbolizes the separation between the sacred and the profane, the divine and the mortal. In this sense, what happened to the Garden of Eden is the wrong question. The real question is, how do we get back? And for many faiths, the answer isn't a map and a shovel. It's a path of spiritual renewal, of faith, and of striving to live in a way that honors the Creator and creation. The promise found in Revelation suggests that the story isn't over. The Tree of Life is mentioned again, available to those who are welcomed into the New Jerusalem. It's a beautiful bookend to the story Paradise Lost, and then, ultimately, Paradise Regained. So, while the physical location of Eden may remain a mystery forever, its legacy is all around us. It's in our art, our literature, and our deepest spiritual longings. It's a powerful story of a perfect beginning, a tragic fall, and the enduring hope of restoration. What do you think happened to the garden? Was it washed away, taken to the heavens, or is it still hidden somewhere? Let me know your theories in the comments below. I'd love to read them. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into one of the greatest mysteries of all time. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.